September 1943. The sky over occupied Europe is cold, thin, and unforgiving. Staff Sergeant Daniel Mercer grips the yoke of his B-17 Flying Fortress. Eternal promise, as it cuts through a ceiling of gray cloud. Frost creeps along the inside of the cockpit glass. His oxygen mask presses tight against his face, every breath dry and mechanical. At 25,000 feet, even thinking feels slower. Behind him, 10 men trust him with their lives. Flak ahead, the navigator mutters, voice tight. Daniel doesn't answer. He sees it already, black bursts blooming in the sky like poisoned flowers. German anti-aircraft fire, precise, waiting. The formation holds steady, dozens of bombers in tight boxes, engines droning like a distant storm. Discipline is survival up here. Break formation, and you die alone. Bomb bay doors in 30 seconds. Comes the calm voice of Lieutenant Harris. Daniel nods, though no one can see it. Then the first explosion hits. The aircraft shudders violently. A burst of flak detonates just off the left wing. Metal screams. The entire bomber jolts sideways. Hit. We've been hit. The tail gunner yells over intercom. Warning lights flash. One engine coughs, then sputters. Daniel feels the drag instantly, like the sky itself is pulling them backward. Engine 3's losing power. The flight engineer shouts. Daniel fights the controls, steadying the bomber. His gloves slip slightly on the yoke from sweat. Stay in formation, he says, forcing calm into his voice. We stay together, but the sky has other plans. Another explosion, closer this time. The cockpit fills with the sharp tang of smoke. A shard of shrapnel punches through the fuselage somewhere behind him. A scream cuts through the intercom, then static. Daniel's jaw tightens. No time to check. No time to feel. Bomb bay doors open. Harris calls. Cold air howls through the aircraft as the doors split open beneath them. The plane shudders again, heavier, slower, wounded. Below, the target waits unseen beneath cloud cover. Steady, steady, Harris whispers. Daniel holds the line, every muscle locked. The formation around him trembles under the storm of flak. Bombers peel away, some trailing smoke, some already falling. Then, a shadow appears through the clouds. Fast, closing, fighters. The top turret gunner yells. Incoming 12 o'clock. German interceptors burst through the mist, sleek and deadly. Daniel's grip tightens. Flak above, fighters ahead, a dying engine, and nowhere to run. The first German fighter screams past like a bullet. Daniel barely catches a glimpse, dark green fuselage, black cross on the wing before it vanishes beneath them. A second later, gunfire rips through the sky. Tracers streak upward, top turret engaging. The B-17 shudders as its own guns answer. The metallic thunder is constant now, machine guns hammering. Engines straining, flak still bursting all around them. Daniel forces his eyes forward, ignoring the chaos behind him. Hold formation, he repeats, quieter this time, more to himself than anyone else. But the formation is breaking. To his right, a bomber takes a direct hit. Its wing shears off in a flash of flame. For a brief, frozen second, the aircraft hangs in the air, then spirals down into the clouds, trailing fire. No parachutes. Daniel swallows hard. Bombs away in 10 seconds. Harris calls. The aircraft jolts again, harder this time. A burst of cannon fire tears through the fuselage. Something heavy slams against the floor behind the cockpit. Radio's dead. Someone shouts. We've lost comms. Daniel adjusts the trim, fighting the drag from the failing engine. The control column vibrates in his hands, now live, unstable. 5 seconds. Another fighter dives straight at them, head on. Daniel sees the pilot just for an instant, a face behind goggles, locked in. Time slows. Fire! Fire! The nose gunner screams. The B-17's forward guns erupt. Tracers streak toward the incoming fighter. The German plane holds its course. Holds. Then pulls up at the last second, unleashing a burst of fire. The cockpit glass cracks. A spiderweb fracture spreads across Daniel's left side. Cold air whistles in. Bombs away. The sudden release lifts the aircraft slightly, but the relief is brief. Engine 3 is gone. The engineer shouts. She's dead. The bomber lurches, losing speed, losing altitude. Daniel pushes the throttles forward, but the response is weak. The remaining engines strain, protesting. We can't keep up. The co-pilot warns. We're falling out of formation. Daniel knows what that means. Alone, they are a target. Behind them, the formation moves on, disciplined, relentless, leaving the damage behind. The sky feels bigger now, emptier, more dangerous. Another pass of fighters comes in, this time from below. Ball turret, where are they? Daniel demands. Static. No answer. Ball turret, respond. Still nothing. Daniel's chest tightens. He doesn't say it out loud, but everyone is thinking the same thing. The belly gunner is silent. and the fighters are coming back. The silence from the ball turret is worse than the gunfire. Daniel feels it like a weight pressing into his chest. Try him again, he says. The radio operator shakes his head, already working the dead switch. Nothing. Lines cut, or he's out. Daniel doesn't respond. He can't afford to. Another burst of tracers slices past the nose. The aircraft rattles as near misses punch the air around them. Fighters breaking left coming around again. The top turret gunner shouts. They're circling now. Patient. Hunting. Daniel forces the nose slightly down, trading altitude for speed. The controls resist him heavy, sluggish. The bomber is wounded, bleeding power with every second. We're dropping out, the co-pilot warns. Below them, the cloud layer stretches like an endless gray ocean. No ground, no escape, just sky and death. Keep her steady, Daniel mutters. Just a little more speed. A sudden metallic crack echoes through the fuselage. Then, a violent jolt. The entire aircraft bucks like it's been kicked by something massive. What the hell was that? The engineer shouts. Daniel doesn't answer. He's already fighting the yoke. Muscles straining as the controls jerk wildly in his hands. The plane yells hard to the right. Rudder's not responding. The co-pilot yells. Another impact, this one grinding, tearing. Not flak, not gunfire. Something else. Contact. We've got contact. Someone screams from the rear. Daniel's blood runs cold. Contact. In the air? That's impossible, the co-pilot says, but his voice shakes. The bomber lurches again, harder this time. The right wing dips violently. Warning lights flare across the panel. Daniel fights to level them, but the controls feel wrong, restricted, like something is dragging them. Look outside. The navigator shouts. Daniel turns his head and freezes. There, just beyond the shattered edge of the right wing, another aircraft, a German fighter. Close, too close. Its nose is buried into the B-17's wing root. Metal fused against metal, propeller twisted and still. Smoke pours from its shattered engine. For a heartbeat, neither aircraft separates. They are locked together, flying as one. No, that's not. The co-pilot stammers. The impossible has happened. At 20,000 feet, in the middle of a burning sky. They should have crashed, but they didn't. The two aircraft shudder violently, bound in a grotesque embrace. Every movement threatens to tear them apart, or take them both down. Daniel grips the yoke, breathing hard. If they separate, they die. If they stay like this, he doesn't know what happens. And then, the German pilot moves. For a moment, the war stops. Daniel stares across the torn metal, past the shattered edge of his wing straight into the cockpit of the German fighter. The pilot is alive. His canopy is cracked, his aircraft mangled. But he's there, hands gripping his controls, eyes wide behind fog goggles. Close enough to see the frost on his mask. Close enough to see the fear. Neither man fires. They can't. At this distance, a single shot would destroy them both. The B-17 groans under the strain. The added weight of the fighter drags the right wing down. Instruments flicker wildly. The altimeter needle ticks lower. 19,500. 19,200. We're losing altitude fast, the co-pilot says, voice tight but controlled. Daniel doesn't look away from the German. Easy, easy. He murmurs, easing the yoke left, trying to counterbalance the dead weight tearing at the wing. The aircraft responds sluggishly. Every adjustment feels exaggerated, dangerous. Behind them, another pass of fighters beckons, but they hesitate. No one wants to fire into this. Two enemies, fused together in midair. What do we do? The navigator asks. We can't stay like this. Daniel knows he's right. The structural stress alone will rip them apart. The wing is already bending, metal creaking like it's alive. But separation is just as deadly. If the fighter tears free suddenly, it could take the wing with it. And then they're done. Daniel looks again at the German pilot. The man is staring back. There's no hatred in his eyes now. No aggression, just calculation. And something else. Understanding. The German lifts one hand slowly, carefully from his controls. For a split second, Daniel tenses, expecting a weapon. But the man doesn't reach for a gun. He gestures. A sharp motion downward. Then points to his own aircraft. Then outward. Daniel's mind races. He's trying to tell us something. The co-pilot whispers. Another gesture. Slower this time. Down. Break away. Separate. Daniel exhales slowly. If they stay locked, they both fall. If they separate, they might still fall. Or they might have a chance. Behind him, the crew waits. No one speaks. No one moves. The decision is his. Daniel tightens his grip on the yoke. All right, he says quietly. We try it. The co-pilot turns to him, eyes wide. You're serious? Daniel nods once. On my mark. The German pilot watches him waiting. Two enemies. One choice. Daniel adjusts the controls, heart pounding in his ears. 3, 2, the aircraft shudders violently as the stress builds. 1, and he pulls. The moment Daniel pulls, the sky explodes into motion. The B-17 lurches violently to the left. Metal shrieks as the twisted remains of the German fighter tear against the bomber's wing. For a split second, it feels like the entire aircraft is being ripped apart. Hold it, the co-pilot shouts. Daniel grits his teeth, fighting the yoke as it bucks in his hands. Then, a sudden release. The fighter breaks free. The force throws the B-17 sideways. One wing dips hard, the horizon spinning in Daniel's vision. Loose equipment slams against the fuselage. Someone screams over the intercom. We're going into a roll. Daniel reacts instantly, slamming opposite rudder, pulling against the dive. The aircraft resists, heavy and sluggish, but it responds. Slowly, painfully, the spin stops. For a breathless moment, they are still in the air. Alive. Status. Daniel barks. Wings damaged bad. The engineer replies. But it's holding. Hydraulics are barely responding. Altitude 17,000 and dropping. Daniel nods, forcing control back into his hands. Trim her out. We're not done yet. But his eyes are already searching the sky, looking for the German. He spots it seconds later. The fighter is falling fast, spiraling downward, trailing smoke. Its wings wobble, barely holding together. Did he make it? The co-pilot asked quietly. Daniel doesn't answer. He watches as the German pilot fights his own controls. The crippled aircraft shuddering as it drops toward the clouds. Then, a small shape bursts from the cockpit. A parachute. White silk blossoms against the gray sky. Daniel exhales, tension he didn't realize he carried slipping away. He's out, he says. No one cheers. There's no victory here. Just survival. Fighters regrouping. The top turret gunner suddenly shouts. They're coming back. Daniel's focus snaps forward again. Of course they are. The B-17 is alone now. Slow. Damaged. Bleeding altitude. The perfect target. Ammo's running low. Comes another voice. Tail gun still responsive. Ball turret still not answering. That silence again. Daniel pushes it aside. Listen up, he says, voice steady despite everything. We head for the cloud layer. Lose them in it. And if we don't, the co-pilot asks. Daniel doesn't hesitate. Then we fight until we can't. Ahead, the clouds rise like a wall thick, blinding, their only chance. Behind them, the German fighters close in. Fast, too fast. Daniel tightens his grip. One engine gone, one gunner silent. A crippled wing, and the enemy right on their tail. They dive toward the clouds, hoping the sky will hide them. The clouds swallow them whole. 1 second, the sky is filled with fire and steel. The next nothing, just white. Daniel flies blind. The B-17 shudders as it punches into the dense cloud layer. Moisture instantly coats the cracked windshield, freezing at the edges. Visibility drops to 0. Instrument flight, the co-pilot says, already locked onto the panel. Daniel nods. His world shrinks to a handful of flickering gauges. Altitude, 15,800. Falling. Airspeed, unstable. Artificial horizon, twitching. Keep her level. Daniel mutters. Behind them, the sound of engines fades then returns, faint but growing. They're following us, the top turret gunner warns. Of course they are. The Germans know a wounded bomber won't escape easily. Even in cloud cover, they can track by sound. By instinct, a sudden burst of tracers rips through the fog behind them. Blind fire. Incoming. Someone shouts. The aircraft jolts as rounds punch through the tail section. Metal fragments ricochet inside the fuselage. Tail gunner still up. Comes the strained voice from the rear. Returning fire. Daniel keeps his focus forward. Stay low in the cloud. Don't climb. Don't break. But the plane has other ideas. A violent tremor runs through the right wing. Then another. Wing's not going to hold this. The engineer shouts. She's stressed too far. Daniel feels its every vibration, every strain. The aircraft is hanging together by willpower and rivets. We need to lighten her. The co-pilot says. Anything we don't need, dump it. Daniel hesitates for half a second. Every pound matters. Do it, he orders. Inside the fuselage, crew members scramble. Ammunition boxes. Damaged equipment, anything not essential is shoved toward the open hatch. One by one, they vanish into the white void below. The aircraft rises slightly, just enough to feel. But it's not enough. Altitude 14,200. Another tremor shakes the wing. A sharp crack echoes through the frame. Daniel's heart skips. That didn't sound like metal flexing. That sounded like something breaking. Check the wing, he snaps. A pause. Then, sir, the engineer's voice is quiet now. Too quiet. We've got a tear. Right wing, near the root. Daniel's grip tightens. That's the worst place it could be. If it gives way, the entire wing could shear off. No warning, no recovery, just a fall. The cloud outside thickens, swirling like a living thing. Then just for a split second the white breaks, a gap in the cloud, and through it. The ground, far too close. Daniel inhales sharply. They're running out of sky. The ground shouldn't be that close. Daniel stares through the brief tear in the clouds, his mind struggling to accept what his eyes just saw. They're too low, way too low. Altitude, he snaps. 12,600, and dropping fast. The co-pilot answers. The cloud closes again, sealing them back into blindness. Daniel's jaw tightens. At this altitude, they're no longer untouchable. Small arms fire. Light flak. Even terrain itself becomes a threat. And that wing. Another violent shudder rips through the aircraft. Sir, that tear is spreading. The engineer shouts. We're losing structural integrity. Daniel can feel it now every second. The right wing flexes farther than it should. The controls lag behind his movements, like the aircraft is hesitating, deciding whether to stay together or come apart. We need to land, the co-pilot says, barely above a whisper. Daniel almost laughs, but there's no humor in it. On what? He asks. We can't even see the ground. A sudden break in the cloud answers him. The B-17 bursts out beneath the overcast, and the world slams into view. Patchwork fields, thin roads, a scattering of buildings. Occupied France. Too low, too exposed, flak from the ground. The navigator yells. Black puffs erupt below them, smaller than before, but just as deadly at this range. The bomber jerks as a burst detonates dangerously close to the damaged wing. Easy, Daniel growls, correcting the roll. Ahead, something cuts through the haze. A long, flat stretch. A field. Not ideal, not safe, but possible. That's our only shot, the co-pilot says. Daniel sees it too. Rough terrain. Maybe farmland. Maybe worse. But it's land. If they stay in the air much longer, the wing won't hold. If they try to reach friendly territory, they'll never make it. Behind them, the distant hum of engines returns. The fighters again, relentless. They're still on us, the top turret gunner confirms. Daniel exhales slowly. Every option leads to risk. Stay airborne, risk the wing snapping. Land here, risk capture, or worse. Fight the fighters, risk everything. He glances back once more, as if expecting to see that German pilot again. But the sky is empty now. Just enemies, and the ground rushing closer. Daniel makes his choice. We put her down, he says. The co-pilot nods, already adjusting. Gear won't deploy properly, the engineer warns. Hydraulics are shot. Daniel's eyes lock onto the field ahead. Then we belly land. The aircraft dips lower. Flak rises. Fighters close in. The wing trembles like it's about to tear free. Daniel tightens his grip. One chance, that's all they get, and the ground is coming fast. The ground rises to meet them. Daniel holds the yoke steady, every nerve locked, every movement precise. The B-17 groans like a dying animal, its torn wing shuddering with each second of flight. Speed, he asks. Too fast, the co-pilot replies. But if we slow any more, we stall. Daniel nods once. No perfect landing. No second attempt. Brace positions. He calls over intercom. Now. Behind him, the crew scrambles. Metal clanks. Harnesses tighten. No one speaks. The field ahead grows larger and even, broken by patches of dirt and tall grass. Not a runway. Not even close. Just earth. Flak incoming. The navigator shouts. A burst erupts just below them. The aircraft jolts violently. The damaged wing dips. Hold her. The co-pilot yells. Daniel fights it, muscles burning as he drags the aircraft level again. Stay with me, he whispers to the machine. Another tremor. The tear in the wing spreads. A sharp ripping sound cuts through the cockpit. Time runs out. Impact in 5. The co-pilot counts. Daniel lowers the nose slightly, aligning with the longest stretch of open ground. 4. The engines scream, pushed beyond their limits. 3. The earth rushes up to fast, to real. 2. Daniel exhales, steady and controlled. 1. Impact. The belly of the B-17 slams into the field with a deafening crash. Dirt and debris explode upward. The aircraft skids violently, metal grinding, sparks tearing across the earth. Inside, bodies are thrown forward. Equipment breaks loose. The world becomes noise and force. The right wing finally gives. It tears away in a violent snap, spinning off into the field as the fuselage continues to slide. Hold on. Someone screams. Then, silence. The aircraft grinds to a halt. Smoke drifts past the shattered cockpit windows. The engines die, one by one, leaving only the crackle of cooling metal. Daniel doesn't move. For a moment, he doesn't breathe. Then, alive, the co-pilot says, voice shaking. One by one, Voices follow. Bruised, shaken, but alive. Daniel closes his eyes briefly, then releases the yoke. They should have died in the sky. Torn apart, burned, lost, but they didn't. He looks out over the broken field, the torn wing lying yards away. Smoke rising into the cold air. In the distance, faint and growing louder, voices, engines, German troops. Daniel straightens slowly. The war isn't over, not yet, but somehow, against every law of gravity and fate, they survived the impossible.